Halle Berry, which actually won Halle Berry a Razzie Award because it was so terrible. And I think it was, speaking of Halle Berry, how do you go from winning an Oscar to going off and starring in a movie that's considered to be, that was panned as bad as Catwoman?
It was also, you look at the era, when all these movies were starting to come out, people really frowned on this, this superhero genre. They really didn't appreciate it as much as they do now. She was
dressed up as a dominatrix.
The costume was a dumb idea, but I do think there was very strong aspects of the movie itself, and her acting, considering what she had to go through, her acting was a lot better than the movie itself.
I don't know. I mean, I think it goes back to this. I mean, you know what? You look at a script, and I think they need to have a little bit more discretion when they go off and read scripts. And he's like, hey, do you want to go on Catwoman? Sure. I'm going to sign up without reading the script. Not a smart move.
There was a point, and thankfully we're starting to see less of that, where certain women felt that they had to take any role just to continue to be relevant. And it was a thing for the longest time.
The problem was that it was movies like Catwoman that went off and caused DC to fall so far behind.
And once again, I do believe that is DC shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, why is it that the only movie franchise that DC seems to have successfully been able to do is Batman? And that is like a topic that we could go into another, because we're really here trying to talk about women and why. I mean, it's nice because we're going up and we're seeing so much here. I mean, it's nice to see Wonder Woman getting a chance to be the central character here. But I mean, TV seems to be much more seems to have gone that idea much sooner. I mean, and especially in this kind of the comic book genre. I mean, we're talking about Wonder Woman, the original series that came out in like the late 1970s and early 80s. You had, there was the $8 million, what was it? The Bionic Woman.
Yeah.
And they tried to redo that a couple years ago, and it got canceled after a couple of episodes. But I mean, there was stuff that TV, and of course, Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I mean,
there was even, and I'm going off the comments here. I
mean, we have a huge list. I mean,
Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2, was another very strong.
Linda Hamilton was absolutely. I mean, even Linda Hamilton in the original Terminator, where we see her go off and go from being this victim to actually being able to go off and to learn to defend herself. Like at the end of Terminator, you take a look at this girl, and she's not the same party girl you see at the beginning of the movie. She turns into this badass.
And just to name a few, and I know who Weem is talking about in our chat room here. He's actually talking about, and I can't remember I know the movie is Underworld. I don't remember the actress, but the lead character in there, she was another very strong.
She was, and I guess, I mean, the whole debate that's coming here, I guess it goes back to, I don't know, large way comics, because I mean, if you talk about it, I mean, look at the Resident Evil series with starring with Alice,
Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that movie. I mean, what they're on like the sixth sequel to this movie now?
That has actually finally come to a close.
And they're talking about
rebooting it.
Which I'm sorry. I when I hear the word reboot, I kind of shiver.
Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale. Yes, Kate Beckinsale, absolute badass.
So just to name a few, of course, you already mentioned Sarah Michelle Gellar for Buffy. The one I grew up with that was absolutely, I couldn't stop watching because of the type of show. And this is a show that had so many different female, strong characters. And
there's
that's
tons
Xena.
of them. Xena Warrior Princess, yeah, absolutely, was another really good one. I mean, we could go back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it's just not Buffy. There was like Willow, and there was Faith, and there were so many other strong female characters that were in that show.
And then of course, like the two that kind of really stuck out because of my style of movie watching as well as TV. You have Jodie Foster, who played Clarice Starling in Silence of the Lambs. and Gillian Anderson, who played Dana Scully in the X-Files. Two of my favorite.
Yeah, and again, I mean, both of them are slightly out of kind of the genre here. And I mean, I'm not saying that the X-Files is not. It's more science fiction as opposed to the comics.
At the same point, though, most comic books can be classified as science fiction too, because it's unexplained stuff.
It is science fiction, but it's a subgenre of it. And if we were to go strictly off of that subgenre, we're talking about. I mean, Wonder Woman, of course, as I brought up, was in developmental hell for years. They tried to bring out a TV series, and it was canceled before the pilot was ever aired on television. And they tried for years and years and years to produce a movie. And part of it is, there seems to be this problem where you need to have a male character as the central figure in it. And the only way you could have strong female characters in comic book movies is if they are a part of, kind of an ensemble cast, much like what they've done with the Avengers. I mean, there hasn't been a Black Widow movie.
No.
If you could go off and there is material there that you could do.
I was just about to say that, with how powerful the Black Widow is, Scarlett Johansson, it could definitely serve as its own stand. But you look at the X-Men, you got Jean Grey.
But you don't see a central movie for Jean Grey. You don't see a central movie for Storm. I mean, and I don't necessarily like the way that they reintroduced Jean Grey, Storm, in X-Men Apocalypse.
No,
but you could. There are so many.
We can argue though that the one thing X-Men did right is, even though the female characters aren't front and center, as the lead or whatever, so to speak, they're co-lead. They are. Not weak, powerless characters.
There's nothing weak about those characters at all. They really stand out as being these strong characters, every single one of them. And that's the nice thing. I mean, when you think about the movie, you could go off and say, who's your favorite character? And a lot of people, when the movie, they'll say, oh, Storm was great. Oh, Jean Grey was great. Oh, Kitty Pryde was great. They could go off and, oh, Rogue was really good. And you could go off and you can list all of these really strong female characters.
I do want to point out, though, with the Dark Phoenix movie coming, so Jean Grey is going to be the focus there. So there is that effort they're putting out.
She will be the focus, but she is probably still not going to be the star.
And time will tell. I'm hoping they go the route of making her the star and whatnot. But there are so many very powerful women role models throughout the TV as well as and the movies. And before we do start doing our end of day stuff, we do have to bring up the two most popular ones, especially of nowadays, who I think you already touched on the one, which was of course, holy smokes, Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia. One of the first introductions in the Star Wars, of the whole powerful thing.
I don't think that Star Wars would have worked as effectively if they did not have Princess Leia in it. And, Princess Leia would not have been as powerful character if Carrie Fisher had not played her.
I completely agree. And it could be argued that throughout, the whole Star Wars, that the female has been front and center. You look at Queen Amidala in the first three, or Padme,
played by Natalie Portman, yeah.
You look at that. You look at Princess Leia
and of course
in the original trilogy,
and now we're talking about Rey in this trilogy. And Rey is, I think, she has taken what Carrie Fisher went off and did, and it's kind of Carrie Fisher has given her kind of. You created the path for her. She built the road for her.
It's a protege.
Protege, and she went off and it's kind of like given Rey kind of the direction to go for, and so she's built the foundation. And she Rey is now becoming that much more of a powerful character.
And you look at Rogue One; it was built on a strong female character as well.
It was, absolutely.
So you can argue that the entire Star Wars franchise has been built on the backs of a strong female role.
Yeah, and again, if it wasn't for Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia, I don't think that would have been possible. And I mean, that's absolutely great. And again, that is something that we are seeing Walt Disney and their, subsidiaries, Marvel and Lucasfilms go off and able to go off and turn it around and makes these really powerful characters.
For example, you look at Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. Now, she's not any stranger to being a strong female role in any movie.
I mean, she went off and, of course, she did the Hunger Games quintet. So, I mean, she is, oh my God, I mean, her dramatic roles alone are absolutely phenomenal.
And how she represents herself off the screen is just as, much of a role model as she is on the screen. So it's nice to see on, for so many different things that this strong female role has become so, important. And I really wish that people realize this more, that there isn't just one role anymore that's important, that's a role model to girls. They all are.
And yeah, absolutely. And of course, I mean, as we go, especially in the comic book, in the future, we are going to see, some more strong characters. I mean, again, you could go off, you can bring up, I mean, Marvel, you can bring up Gamora as another one that's pretty strong as well. But I mean, we know that, with Marvel, they have Captain Marvel coming down the pipeline, who hopefully is going to be another strong female.
You can even look as Nebula as a very strong female role as well.
Yeah, she really came into her own in The Last Guardians. And then, I mean, but I guess before we go, where are some comic book characters, and I'll bring this up to Weem and to Amy, who I know are listening in, who are some strong female comic book characters you'd like to see have standalone movies?
Easily the Wasp. Always has been my favorite, and I don't mean in a movie with Ant-Man, or I would like to see the original story of Wasp come to life, of how the character itself came to life beforehand. Yes, we all know Ant-Man plays some part in it, but the Ant-Man never gave Wasp the personality, the being of who she was. I would really like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a really interesting. I know down the pipeline they have Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I don't know which versions of these characters they're talking about. I don't know if they're
considering
talking about,
after Ant-Man they gave the suit. I guarantee it's going to be the new Wasp.
What I would love to see is the story of Henry and Janet, the original, two that held these, who had these personas. And it would be very interesting to see them both kind of grow up and to kind of see the relationship, how their relationship forms and come up to that ending that they had in Ant-Man, where they kind of go off and reveal that she's gone. I do kind of like where they went with Ant-Man, because Henry Pym is getting the idea that maybe he can go off and find Janet and bring her back, which I think it would be absolutely awesome if he was able to go off and to do that. We're running out of time, though. I think I know that they probably won't do this, particularly because they've got the Superman or Supergirl TV series that seems to be doing really well on television. But I would love to see them try to do another Supergirl movie.
So would I. Definitely, and of course, we have so many different suggestions in our chat as well that I'm going to read out before we go.
I mean, they could go Hawkman and Hawkgirl as well. And
Hawkgirl would be an awesome choice. So Amy actually wants to see one based on Harley Quinn. I personally agree with that one.
I know they're doing a movie based off
the Sirens.
The Sirens of Gotham.
Yeah, and Weem wants to see either Black Cat or Black Widow. Both very good choices.
Yeah, those would be. I mean, they're planning they're doing a standalone Venom movie, which is going to be strictly under Sony. Sony's not having anything to do with Marvel for it,
which I think is a bad choice.
I think it's a bad choice as well. But I mean, definitely a Black Cat movie, a standalone, and I know people are going to go off and say that there's too many similarities between Black Cat and Catwoman. But guess what, guys? You can go off and you can do DC and Marvel up and down, and you'll see, constantly
So
the
many
number of
different
times where they go
similarities.
off and rip each other off.
The one thing I would really like to see is a remake of Catwoman.